Yeah.
But then again, it was like if that were it, that would be
I'd probably be gone. My husband's quite easy, so he starts in the morning, he's taking kids on the school tour, so.
I can take you home.
This goes on quite late actually. I don't have it in me, to be honest.
Yeah.
I started technically like an hour ago. It was like a film here.
Not from the very beginning, but yeah. So
Were they good?
some of them are pretty cool, yeah.
Is it like music videos, like kind of like,
It's like
poetry?
Yeah, poetry films and short poetry.
That's kind of what I was thinking when I was saying, but I think your poetry would be nice in that form.
Find the fun poetry.
They have a film festival every
Really?
year, yeah.
What's that?
They have a film festival and a poetry
That's
festival.
right.
Yeah, like and it's very well established internationally. I think it also is really well established. Yeah, they do, yeah, no, it's very good.
To get stuff every
Yeah, I didn't know there's some like different poetry doing it all the time. It's like people are submitting interactions, even just being next
I saw it at the shop.
You like both join up or you you have that friends in on your phone and then so you're like
Is he coming? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah.
Did you get lost again? I know it's tricky for the Charlie North side, all of this
you don't like stand up to a microphone or anything like that, like it's very like fluid.
Alrighty guys.
It's like really nice stuff.
Hello and welcome to the 685th O Vale. Great to see you all down here this evening. So we know the lay of the land. We're going to kick off with the 5-word challenge. After that we will have a little break and our guest poets and then our open mic. So this is a hybrid event. We will be beaming some poets in from Zoom, the mysterious land of Zoom. We've had our poetry films already earlier this evening, and now we're going to have the 5-word challenge. So the 5-word challenge, and you can compete on Zoom as well, guys, and you can vote there in the chat window on Zoom. And please be aware that this event is being live streamed. And as well as that, we also have Brendan Duffin, who has just joined the Ovale family in a professional capacity. So a big welcome to Brendan, who's on his first day's work here. Brendan's going to be taking some photographs as the night proceeds. So if you would rather not be included in the photographs, do let us know and we can arrange that. Do let Brendan know. So the 5-word challenge, which has always been one of my favorite parts of the night, is a poetry challenge where the audience will yell out 5 words. It says here acceptable words. It says it in italics, but I'm sure that all the words will be acceptable. So we will get 5 words from the audience, then we will have 15 minutes to write a poem. So everyone will then come to the mic, or they will be an order in Zoom in which poets can read if they want to volunteer. And then at the end of that, we will collate the Zoom votes and we will take a reading from the room. It's the clapometer, but it's also got an amount of personal preference. So I'm going to be picking tonight based on how you guys all interact with our poets up here. So without further ado, can we please get our first word for the 5-word challenge? Acerbic. Fine word. Acerbic. What does acerbic mean? Acerbic is kind of like a bitter pointed comment. That's an acerbic tone. Would that be right, Roz?
Yeah, acidic. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
it's almost like acidic.
So our first word is acerbic. Can we get another word? Sausages. Solstice. Acerbic, solstice, sausages. Our second word is solstice. So we have acerbic and solstice. Pitchfork. Pitchfork is our third word. And sausages, it suggested itself, didn't it?
We have beauty online.
Oh, we have another one from online. What word is that?
Beauty.
Beauty. So beauty, acerbic, sausages, solstice, and pitchfork. Those are our 5 words today. So I'm going to give you guys 15 minutes to put your poems together, and then you can come up to the mic. Acerbic, A-C-E or B-I-C. A-C-E or B-I-C. Acerbic.
Sorry, isn't the acerbic have an E instead of an O? Doesn't acerbic have an E instead of an O? But that might be an American spelling. I don't know. We spell things differently over here.
Apologies, acerbic, A-C-E.
This ascorbic is ascorbic acid for vitamin C.
Yes.
I have acerbic, solstice, sausage, pitchfork. Beauty. So the winner, guys, will receive a pint from the bar, unless they are online, in which case you can pour yourself one from the fridge. And also a book of poetry from the top of the table up here.
There's 3 books that are there. There's 3.
Oh, so we have 3 this evening. Lucidity, we could all do with some of that. Agenda and the 5-word challenge book will go to the winner of the 5-word challenge. Having a very quiet moment. So these are the 5 words, and for the 5 word challenge. So if you get these words down, and then we have probably got about 5 minutes left. Straight away. So write a poem including all of the 5 words. Doesn't have to rhyme, can, just only might get an extra point here or there. And then everyone will read them in turn, and the winner will get a point tally. So that is the intro to but you're only beauty is short, it's not just yeah. We see a lot of scribbling and only one victorious postural completion, so we'll go an extra few minutes here. Righty guys, ladies and gentlemen, put down your pensions. So we are going to kick off with whoever would like to come to the microphone first. Failing that, I can warm up the mic with a bit of nonsense. This is my one. There once was a man whose fingers were sausages. He would barbecue them on a pitchfork at all the winter solstices. If you think he'd be acerbic or allergic, trust me, you'd demolish this. It was ethical too, because he regrow those sausages by the summer solstices. Would anyone like to come up and lobby? So we have Antonio. Oh, sorry, what's your name? So we have Geraldine. Sorry about that. There's a false start for me.
Thanks very much. And thank you for having me. And the Arabic beauty surrounds the advent of the solstice. We sit hovering over the last remnants of the wood fire as we munch our sausages. A pitchfork-like implement pokes these victuals around on the open searing pit. In the fresh air, the food tastes good. Extra nice as a barbecue this time of the year is unheard of. Always once to do the unconventional. We glance around the glowing embers intent on welcoming the great event. At the end of the year, the start of a new beginning, the moon emerges from behind the clouds, illuminating the scene with its blessing. An eternal cycle welcomes in the Yuletide holidays.
Give it up for Geraldine, guys. Thank you so much. So next we have Antonio.
Hi. So this poem is called One More Step. Summer solstice, eating voraciously the best youth, drinking pints of acerbic time. The pitchfork has the spirit of the word of a farmer, hungry of clouds with the shape of sausages. Fallen asleep in the arms of the beauty, your name will be remembered. Thank you.
So next up we are going to Zoom. We're going to go to Brian Franco. The Generalissimo. Are you there, Brian?
And I am I did a Tonka. Oh, hold on.
Hold up just 1 second. We'll get you pinned onto the screen here.
No, we can't. He's not put his video.
Oh, you don't have the, no worries. Okay, so proceed. Thank you.
I did a Tonka, which is 57577. When he commented on the beauty of the char on the solstice sausages, her acerbic tongue stabbed him in the heart with a pitchfork.
I like that one, Brian.
Thank you.
So who do we have next from the audience here? Marvelous. And sorry, could you introduce yourself on the mic as well?
Yes. My name is Alexandra. It's my first time here tonight. I'm really delighted to see what's going on here. So there it goes. I just want to break the ice to feel better. Everything they ever told me, devil's pitchfork to naive eyes that wonder. Everything they ever taught me, plant-based sausages to carnivores' hunger. Everything they ever spoke, acerbic drops of pearl-shaped ulcers on a burning necklace of my intestines that broke. As the solstice of forgiveness dawns, I either hate or love them again. As the solstice of forgiveness dawns, I either beast or beauty them. As the solstice of forgiveness dawns, I either kill or save them.
What an introduction to Avail. Alexander, you're so very welcome down here, and what a fabulous way to break the ice. That was marvelous. Phew. Do we have anybody else, guys? Who is next? Rosie.
I had 2 false starts. Sorry for jumping on you, but I thought he clocked me. Okay. Bitch. Hers was an acerbic beauty, an eclipsed summer solstice, a pitchfork in my sausages.
And next up we have Sue Blue, everybody.
Together. The solstice fires are burning low. We share stories, poems, songs. Moonless night unveils the beauty of the moment. As we roast sausages on sticks, shoulder to shoulder, listening with equal ears to the wisdoms of life, we leave behind all acerbic judgment, denying the devil his pitchfork of toxicity.
So next up we have Jim, and then we're going to go to Zoom for one, guys.
You. Dyslexic Satanists have graffitied City Hall with all bow for Satin. They fantasize about the devil's sausage, hotter than habanero. They long for the devil's saucisson. The beauty of the burn turns them on, Vindaloo lover, liquid fire, tornado of desire finding enlightenment, lighting cigarettes off the burning bush. Eternity is one long solstice, swiveling on the devil's pitchfork, crepuscular, cretins, whispering acerbic nothings.
You. So next up we are going to Zoom. We're going to Hilary Quinn. Hilary, come in, please. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Give me it. A boy with a sweaty forehead and legs of bruises shoved his weary sister, causing a blister on her hand while she sizzled his sausages. An unpaid maid, and yet her heart was in his tiny fingers, all squished and mashed and pink. She gave her mother a quick wink to indicate all was okay. Was it though? It was only last night with pitchforks out, herself and Dad pitted head to head like lead-poisoned madmen. And today, all is well, I suppose. He lies in repose on the couch, hands linked just like you see it awake. He's about to get a shake though, for it is the solstice so bright now he can only see red from inside his eyelid. I suppose he sees red at other times too. An acerbic wit urges me to say, well, Dad, wouldn't it be great if you were actually dead today in these tall sun rays? How fitting and memorable an end it would be. Or would we forget you easily, only for it being the solstice? We would know your anniversary. Handy.
What's your name?
Mark.
So next up we have Mark.
The sausages look like fat fingers on the barbecue. The acerbic smoke of fat dripping on coals smells like gorse burning in summers when it felt like only me and the bees could see the beauty of yellow blossoms. We are celebrating the solstice on the beach, but the sun seems to be setting on the wrong side of that hill. In the too loud laughter, I feel like a lost pagan, and like Poseidon might rise from the ocean and skewer me on a pitchfork for not making correct libations so that I can be served at some other more ancient barbecue.
We're going to go to Zoom for Massimo. Massimo, you're on mute there. 1 second.
Oh, hey, thank you so much for having me. Always an honor to be here. I did not quite finish, and I had to cheat to use Google to understand some of the words. So, but here's what I have so far. I love poetry because it gives me an opportunity to speak my heart, where people will respond by clapping their hands or snapping their fingers instead of chasing me out of the town with pitchforks. They say if something is like watching sausages getting made, then it means unpleasant truths about it emerge that make it much less appealing. So I try not to spit it if I would not absorb it. But even acid can heal, not always sweet, but absorbic. So I flow and I flow, but I know when I've had my fill. Soul, sun, soul means sun, Sisterer means to stand still. So like the sun, I just am who I am and shine still. If not for survival, then at least just for beauty. For what is there to say about beauty except you can find it anywhere you look, anytime you look. Thank you. Peace.
Thank you, Massimo. It's always good to see you here at Ovel. Down there, you. Next up, we're going to stay on Zoom. We have Maura Ni Lira. So you're just on mute there. 1 second, Maura. Now you're good.
Okay. Thanks, Paul. The summer solstice. What beauty. Yet nothing compared to sausages skewered like a pitchfork and deftly deposited on the tongue tip, the mustard a tad acerbic, followed by an explosion of taste as pork, grease, and seasonings collide.
And we're back in the room with Phil Spillane.
Thank you. I think some of us had a collective thought about barbecue. Cook a barbecue on a solstice stone. To the winter sky singes to the winter night singes the sky to an acerbic acid red. The hissing of the salted sausages, brown bread waxed in butter, and rashers fried to a beauty. It makes me feel that the stove is talking back, that if I eat my fill of supper, my belly will be out of loneliness. The nights are long and are cold, and I eat my time awake. As in the dawn, I turn into a stubborn standing stone, alone, with a big fat belly, with ohms scratched like veins in the shape of pitchforks. Thanks.
Thank you, Phil. I got the dagda out of that one. Big time. And next up, we have Benjamin Burns.
An acerbic piglet determined to spend the solstice stabbing at strings of sausages with a pitchfork, hurling them, spitting in the pan about the beauty of the swine they'd been cleaved from. Oink, oink,
That was visceral, thank you, Ben. So next up, I think we have Jason. Jason, are you volunteering there? Lovely.
Jim, you inspired me. I threw something in the last minute. We'll see if I can stick the land. I always feel like I have a red figure on my shoulder, stabbing my neck with a pitchfork. And yet, I look nothing like my parents. I'm sure they looked at each other and then out the window asking, Jason came from which stork? My mother was a tanned beauty, whereas I'm so pale you can nearly see through me. My father was barrel-chested and ham-fisted with fat fingers like sausages. His wit was muscular and acerbic. You should have heard it, so captivating. You wouldn't notice the crepuscular solstice.
And next up we have Cedric.
Let's try this one. The lunar cycle was finally complete, with the moon in the sky. Hidden behind a cloud, sole witness of the beauty, imperceptibly slipping through the darkness. Old and young witches had gathered for the ritual of the winter solstice, starved to cleanse the body, while boiling sausage, symbol of temptation, to enforce purity. When the nightly light finally hit the cauldron, through the cloud's interstices, the elder picked the meat out with a branch, an improvised pitchfork to harvest the acerbic and bitter dinner. The disgust was not to be expressed. That sobriety was the smallest price to pay for power.
And who's up next, guys? Catherine Ronan. What's your name, sir? And you can go after.
I didn't get the barbecue memo, sorry. This is going to bring it down a tone. Broken, 1847. I set all the clocks to burn in the hum of your desperate solstice. I stuck my pitchfork in the acerbic drills of famine. My lips spilled green with a swollen belly of frogs and grass. Oh, how I long for sausages in these last hours. Broken, cracked, spent. But there is beauty in broken things.
Thanks. The acerbic he served, doused in a vinegary red condiment, was subpar. Solstice was not a pitchfork in hay or a stinking patchouli. It was a clouded Newgrange, the red sun eye occluded. God damn it, I paid 10,000 bitcoins for this. You little sausage, Mum used to say. Or, keep this up and I'll send you to boarding school. I'd read all my sister's Mallory Towers and Chalet School, so bring it on. Then Grandad leapt up and shouting, "Go on, you beauty," as his horse came in. Red rum, the haunted boy says in The Shining.
How many more poems do we have out there, guys? Can we just show of hands? We got one, we got two. Mags, marvelous. So we have Mags up.
Oh goodness, I love this and Catherine's. Anyway, I loved the last two. So anyway, I'll brave it out. This is a cocktail twist of 2 trips to the solstice. Once you wrote acerbic twists, grapefruit moons squeezed out each word. Where once we stood encircled by stones, midwinter mist drizzled our paints and washed away each dreamy watercolour we tried to make. 'Twas all the better for it, you said, washed out the hard lines, more subtle. Now we pitchfork sausages on the grill to feed the wains, our crew that grew from this ancient place. A Bunsen burner in Drumbegno, cheap disposable grids of charcoal, but they still capture the stones and the shale smoke in light relief, grids and diamonds and lozenges all smoking. On this night the moon is puce, or strawberry as Holly Willoughby would say, a mix of 2 solstice trips, a different kind of beauty now, more rounded and complete. The dazzle of December solstice, the drizzle of it, still sealed upon my face. The thoughts of our lost millennium, because it was another millennium, remained locked in the new and aging eyes, locked and remained in the eyes of this place.
Alrighty guys, so next up we have Kyle. Kyle, is it your first time here? Yep. Marvellous. Can we give a warm Ovale welcome to Kyle?
Hi, I'm Kyle. So I walked in late to insistent muttering, sausages, sausages, pitchforks, sausages. I've not been here before and don't understand their secret messages. Are these acerbic whisperings of Porky Rebellion? Some solstice summoning of a fat, hungry demon? I haven't a clue, but I'm excited to meet him. There is a beauty in not knowing and just finding out.
Alrighty, guys, a final call to board the 5-word challenge. Anybody else out there? Any lurkers? We got one, do we? We got another, we got...
So short, I'd stay here.
Marvellous. We'll take the mic, don't you, if we
No,
can.
don't bother.
Okay, bend it out. What's your own name?
Mona.
Mona, so this one's Mona.
Aunt Aggie has an acerbic tongue, a left hook like a pitchfork. When the sun stands still, she appears, all beauty, freckled and burned by the solstice. Sausages pour like motes of lava out of every orifice. She molds and melts and slithers down the nearest drain. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. That was noisy, Mona. Thank you so much. What's your name? Adrian. And next up, we have Adrian. I think that's us finishing out. So Adrian is the last performer in the 5-word challenge tonight.
Cooking the sausages, all I notice is the grime that drips down the back of the vent and onto the cooker, which you said you would clean and didn't. There is no look of beauty in the morning for me. Approaching the time of the solstice, the light streams through our curtains, thin like the old pages of a book. We put together songs without rhythm. Absent is rhyme. What remains is a call and response of tasks meant to hold off the fears that shook us during the night. Every now and then, what took us then is still acerbic with the early dawn, and we are stymied. But we rub the cold fingers of our small words until they carry pitchforks, sending our small injustices into the air with the rooks.
Guys, unless there is anybody else waiting at the station, that is us. Okay, that was fabulous. That was absolutely fabulous, and it's always very difficult to pick a winner. There were some incredible poems, some incredible first-timers there. Kyle and Alexandra, both of you guys kicked ass. That was amazing. Catherine, that was devastating. There were so many beautiful poems today, but the winner, I do definitely believe, is pretty stitched up. It's Jim Crickert.
I'll give you that €50 later. Yet again. Thanks so much. Okay, I'm just going to call it the devil's sausage. Dyslexic Satanists have graffitied City Hall with "all bow for Satan." They fantasize about the devil's sausage, hotter than habanero. They long for the devil's saucisson. The beauty of the burn turns them on. Vindaloo lover, liquid fire, tornado of desire, finding enlightenment, lighting cigarettes off the burning bush. Eternity is one long solstice, swiveling on the devil's pitchfork. Crepuscular cretins, whispering acerbic nothings. I got it that time.
Alrighty guys, so we're going to take a short break, a 5 to 10 minute long break. Let's park that somewhere right in the middle of that. I'll start the timer. So you have 5 to 10 minutes. Starting now, we'll be back up here for our guest poets. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think, not to compare, but
Alrighty guys, welcome back. So we will kick off our round of guest poets, and today we have some fabulous guest poets for you. We have John O'Donnell and Sarah Hymas. So we'll kick off with some announcements, some housekeeping. And once again, phenomenal on the 5-word challenge. The standard was so high, some fabulous newcomers. We had some wonderful performers from this table as well. That was absolutely mighty, guys. Well done. I'd also like to say a big hello to Damo, who just drove all the way down from Clifton to see me. So our announcements. I have a personal announcement to kick off with. Liss Festival. It's a labour of love. It is July 22nd. It's a mythology, hip-hop, comedy, spoken word festival, fire performers and everything. Tickets at €30. You can find them on my Instagram at Cathal Holden or at list.mythology.festival at Instagram. So that is going to be a big number and I'm hoping it goes well. So back to the programme, the official announcements. So Ovale aims to maintain a safe space for writers and all attendees. We subscribe to the Arts Council's Equality, Human Rights and Diversity Policy. We ask participants to report any offensive behaviour to Ovale. The 11th 5 Words International Poetry Competition continues, with the words changing tomorrow at 12 p.m. Our judges for 2023-2024, our judge is Theo Dorgan. The words for the 13th to 20th of June are trace, thorn, cover, new, and listen. Those words again are trace, thorn, cover, new, and listen. And I will announce them at the end of these announcements as well. The 11th Ovale International Poetry Film Competition is accepting submissions until the 31st of August. More details at ovale.ie. Please be aware that this event is recorded and will be available to revisit as an MP3 podcast and on video via Ovale's website, social media, and Vimeo channels. If anyone would like to be excluded from the recording, please make us aware and we can arrange that. Our featured guests on Monday, 10th July are Gail McConnell via Zoom from Belfast and Jerry Boland in person. All are welcome to attend in person or online. If you'd like to participate via Zoom, please email info@ovail.ie. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. I heard a comment from just over there at the operating desk there that perhaps it's not so possible to cut someone out of the recording. So I just said that because I thought I'd heard it said before here. So thank you to everyone who has kindly offered donations. The donation jar is near the door. PayPal donations can be made via the link above the live poetry stage on our website or via our contact page, ovail.ie/blog/contact us. Alrighty guys, so our first guest poet is Sarah Hymas, who is joining us all the way from Zoom in Morecambe Bay. Her writings appear in prints, exhibitions, videos, installations, lyrics on stage and radio. She makes text-based artwork as well, including site-specific audio walks, artist books, and performative soundscapes. Her poetry publications include Host with Waterloo Press in 2010, Milt with Waterloo in 2020, and The Hispering, Black Sunflowers 2021. Her artist books sell widely and are held at the National Poetry Library in London. On and off the page, she collaborates with other writers, artists, musicians, and marine scientists. Her current writing, in all its forms, focuses on the ocean, its ecosystems, and our relationships with it, specifically regarding the impact of climate change and other forms of pollution. She works as a coach, mentor, and freelance writer, facilitating workshops in schools, HMPs, libraries, museums for undergraduates, adult education, adult basic education, community colleges, mental health drop-in centres, and in retreats, and most recently in the Writers' Imaginarium. Give a very big warm welcome for Sarah Hymas.
Well, it's so lovely to be here, here and with you there. And what a night! What a night! I'm just so in awe of what you managed to write, combining those words. And I have to say, I have no sausages, no pitchforks, no acerbic, no solstice even. But I do have. I think there's a trace, so I'm sort of like halfway bridging into the to the next 5 words. So so thank you so much for having me. I am in Morecambe Bay in northwest England. It's looking really, really dark out there. It's as hot here probably as it is with you by the looks of everybody. And fingers crossed, there's thunder and lightning. I'm not very far away, and so I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to stay with you for the duration. But if I'd suddenly disappear, that's because there's thunder and lightning has struck something nearby. Mel, I'm going to read from Mel, my book that is mainly around looking at the ocean and exploring how I relate to the ocean, how I think the ocean impacts us, and just that whole kind of engagement with water. I mean, like I say, we're in a heat wave at the moment, and it feels like even though the sea is literally meters away from where I'm sitting, it feels a very long way away from water, although I'm sure somewhere in the world it will be raining and crazy floods, and that's just how it is sort of cycling around in this sort of more and more extreme weather conditions. So I'm going to start the reading on Morecambe Bay and then move further and further north up up to the Arctic. So I hope you enjoy it. I think the only thing I want to say is that you heard from the introduction that a lot of what I do isn't just words on a page, but I play around with performance and film and sort of sculptural forms, and I think I'm as interested in the sound and rhythm and sort of texture of words as I am their meanings. So just let the words wash over you like a warm wave on the ocean, and I hope you enjoy it. Some days, wind and tide spew shrapnel up the bridge. On others, these snappings of garish flakes hook themselves to a retreating wave drawn back under away, out of the bay on tides faster than a man can run. Bits of computer, biros, scraps of cars, satellite butts and buildings, rides, sand, waves, mega ripples, coils, fuming, flexing nurdles, the bedrock of plastic manufacturer, foam from drains and container ships, tough enough to reach the Irish Sea, looping polymers, gleam of chains, of cosmetics and cleaning products, indistinguishable from bubbles of air or algae, spunk of gas, coal and oil, bristling tentacles of ancient sunlight, free from millennia of confinement. There is a lot of plastic in the ocean, and I am sure you have heard of these sort of floating islands that kind of come together at gyres out in the ocean. But we all know that we sort of find lots of this stuff coming up on beaches. And I have spent many days on the beach near here on Morecambe Bay, clearing up. And it is cathartic, even though it also feels so fruitless because there is so much there. But it does help me. It grounds me somehow. This poem's called Recovery. However much your body disturbs you, it needs to be loved. Like this beach, you mine for bottles filled with sour congealment, screwed grit and fish scales, where fork prongs and splintered cups strewn across grass and shells are called confetti, which you collect and bin because in the deep, nothing breaks down to nothing. It's a fruitless job. But yeah, it's a small act, all these small acts of resistance that seem to make a difference. And as well as plastic, there is a lot of driftwood that comes down both the rivers. There's 5 rivers that feed Morecambe Bay. And so there's a lot of driftwood that comes down from the rivers. And I wonder sometimes whether the wood comes from further afield, maybe Ireland, maybe from Scotland, maybe up from Wales. Or we've had bits of Welsh marina land here. So, you don't know, this sort of swirling mass of ocean that covers 2/3 of our planet. Things could come from anywhere. So yeah, driftwood comes fairly regularly. Driftwood. We could be pallbearers, slouching home with a spine of dead elm, shoulder high. Our pacing coordinated to preserve length, coupling limbs, gnarled arms caught around the knot of memory. We listen to the squeal of salt-logged sinew, skin in the North Atlantic drift. Rain makes everything slippery. Trunk straight, trunk crooked, trunk compressing trunks where we were so buoyant. There's no rolling free from the Gulf Stream's fate. We reel on, awkward on uneven ground with the weight of a warm nest. Judder as we heat, forward curl under this unwieldy pressure, buffeted by wind. I eye the grain of our lineage, brine pulped. We are not myth, ancient or rotting, not yesterday, but tomorrow, today. Our niche as scavengers, we convey this rootless tree as others carry unborn children. So as well as the things that fall into the sea, obviously, thank you. As well as the things that fall into the sea, the plastic, the trees, dead trees, the sea is obviously an astonishing ecosystem of plants and animals in its own right. And the thing that I think really fascinates me are plankton. You know, these microscopic plants and animals that that live in the ocean, and the plants in these microscopic plants, this plankton, the phytoplankton in the sea, provide half the oxygen in the, well, actually, I think it's 2/3 of the oxygen of the planet. So every second breath that you breathe comes from the sea. And I just think we sort of hear a lot about trees, about the rainforest. Actually, the ocean is as crucial to our survival in that way. And so, yeah, this poem is sort of plays off that idea and this sort of like obsessive fascination with staring at very small things, called spectral. Tens of millions of carbon stitching larvae and adult plankton as indistinguishably inhaled by woman, exhaling by girl. Looking as a 4-year-old might without the focus of glasses at this water bauble left behind by the sea backcombing salt marsh. I see pixels, multicolored cells cohering around this grass blade tip. Mother and daughter of this place, dragged and flood ripped open, my hands hammering and listening, will pull a fish from the washed up yew, spines carved dark, scales chiseled, from having thrashed against tides, against all likelihood, to equip itself for flight and death. So, thank you. So this is I think, I was going to say it's the last poem about plankton, but not quite. But this it's a small poem, and it's just celebrating. So not only do plankton provide the air we breathe, they also are create one of the largest daily migrations in the world. So, well, it's at night. So the zooplankton, these tiny animals, rise up from the depths of the sea to the surface to feed on the algae at night. So this sort of enormous, like trillions of tiny, tiny creatures are rising up from the depths of the sea to the surface, and that again just blew my mind. So moist. In the unfathomable dark of my closed eyes, microscopic life surfaces to feed on digested sunlight, or suspended specks, synthetics that will plug guts and cling to filaments and furca of these translucent drifters. Some as long as whales, whose gels and gases upwell smaller than the sleep I wipe from my lashes. So you may remember, thank you, you may remember a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, about the beast from the east, the sort of Arctic winds that came down and sort of hit Europe, more southern Europe. I was up in Scotland, so we're sort of moving a bit further north from Morecambe Bay now. I was up in Scotland in St Andrews, and came across this beach just strewn with dead creatures. It was really shocking. I've never seen such carnage. This poem describes that, what starts at that point, slow rising. One lobster in a wreckage of brittle stars, urchins, clam husks, crabs, lugworm casings, possibly millions of splayed limbs desiccated in the stretch of miles that will become beach, and we may not save its life, merely prolong another hour, another tide for it. Perhaps we want to save ourselves. We know we cannot revive the dead, reverse days, rehydrolysize hearts with cute photographs of toddlers and terriers playing in the dunes. It is the act of picking it up, of passing it between us and dropping it and blaming the other and trying to ascertain if it is the wind or it teasing its tentacles, then carrying it towards the sea and into a pool where its mandibles twitch a bubble and legs blush a slow rise indigo at the same rate of our own thawing that stayed the pain, stalling our rising defences. Its once mottled legs creeping blue with lobster life. These few seconds we bend over the beads of air, ourselves a slow blush of resistance to the immobility of wrath darkening. We don't know if it will live, but our bodies know love. I don't know how many of you have witnessed bioluminescence. So some of these plants in the sea, the phytoplankton, will spark astonishing colours as defence or as attraction as well for the animals will have spark it as attraction. And I was sailing with some friends, very fortunate to be sailing with some friends in the northeast coast of Scotland. And some of them were male friends and were able to piss overboard, and at which point we saw all this sparkle in the sea. So then we had to start throwing more and more water over the side of the boat to sort of spark this bioluminescence. And this poem, so yeah, explores how they're so small as individual, and yet when you see them clustered together, both in the sparks of bioluminescence or as the red tides, when they kind of really gather together, you can see them from space. So this sort of contrast of scale is just extraordinary. Bioluminescence. Hurling water overboard, we ignite this creased evening. Adrenaline sparks my arm, my chest, as if I'm watching my thrill glitter in nebula exploding below. A circuitry faster than I can distinguish anything from myself, itself, or ourselves, flashes in the shadow of the hull, flaking antifoul, coppering barnacles and algae for the length of our voyage, ensuring some speed, but nothing compared to this. There is no cellular speed compared to this 100 millisecond blue-white charge carried through the water. Water that sings through blood and brain, perhaps causing a different stress, deep in unconsidered cells, flashing and sparking their alarm, pin bright to deter predators. Not us, we throw again, without knowing whether what we deplete will be recharged, or if these are the same few creatures responding over and over, which they can't be when you think of how their blooms of night blue or day red, surface smears, curve with currents, turn colossal, continental, when viewed from a satellite, visible only by detachment. Just like when my silhouette swims solo beneath the sun, beneath me, shot through by minnows, eel inking each rock and sponge. When the sea lifts me away from me, and I become separate and contingent on the constellation, spraying through droplets, through this small arc of an arm swinging through one summer night. And thank you. And I wanted to finish with a couple of poems that I wrote when I was, I wrote after I'd been to the Arctic. I had this extraordinary experience that I was able to go up to Svalbard, right in the far Arctic, yeah, it was just a totally bewildering experience. I'd sort of wanted to go for so long, and then when I got there, I didn't really know why I'd wanted to go. Yeah, it was just like otherworldly, as you might be able to imagine. And these are poems that form a bigger sequence, but I'm just going to read you a couple. They're called Melt, like the book. Melt, in which ice still holds the Arctic. This shallow ocean, stumped by hills eddying a heartbeat, is where life rises. One possible future, I look into a bird, ice pixelated, grainy blue and grey. And there's me inside, blue eyes swimming, magnified. I can't tell if I'll disappoint anyone or anything depending on me, or me depending on me. I'm not used to being lost. Shoreline tells me the lie of the land. Here, I'll need my peripheral sight to document what I can't read. The more I think about words, the more uneasy I feel. I will use the ice as ink to damp shadow the page as squid fluoresce the coal. And so, yeah, it was so big and so old, it really unnerved me, ultimately. Melt, in which comfort is sought. I find myself wanting to be held by a body as fleeting as mine in the face of something too large to see. The smallest algae will survive these conditions, their resistance to sinking. So small I might not count, turn me smaller than small. Multitude defends, breathing is believing. A comma of chlorophyll, many commas punctuate many ripples amongst the legion of crossing streams, falling to sediment, snow, millions coiling across the glass parent that will never be full. Every exhale extends 9 months, a year, decades. I find myself wanting to hold and be held. Thank you very much for listening.
Sarah, thank you so much for a absolutely deeply evocative and absolutely beautifully powerful reading. It is so much appreciated. So guys, you will notice a little bit of a theme in our guest readers this evening. This is the last day of Cork Harbour Festival. For the last 4 or 5 years, the June event of Ovale has been the final event in Cork Harbour Festival. So we have a bit of an oceanographic theme this evening. So can we have another big round of applause, please, for Sarah Hyman? That was wonderful. Hymas, sorry. And next up, we have John O'Donnell. So John O'Donnell's work has been published and broadcast widely in Ireland and abroad. Awards include the Irish National Poetry Prize, the Ireland Funds Poetry Prize, and Hennessy Awards for Poetry and Fiction. He has published 5 poetry collections, including On Water with Daedalus in 2014, and Sunlight, New and Selected Poems with Daedalus as well in 2018. His collection of short stories, Almost the Same Blue, with Dubura Press in 2020, was nominated in the Irish Times as one of the best fiction debuts of 2020, and one of the books of the year in the Sunday Independent. His play Rainbow Baby was recently broadcast on RT Radio's Drama on One. He lives in Dublin. Please give a big warm welcome to John O'Donnell.
I say thank you to everybody from Ovale and Paul in particular for inviting me, and to Sarah's powerful poetry. That line, "In the face of something too large to see," is a description of, in one sense, what's happening to the water and to the oceans, but in another sense, it describes what we all see when we hear and see poetry at its best. So, thank you to Sarah, and thank you to everybody. Mary Heaney said there's no such thing as a short poetry reading, but I'll keep it as unlong as I can. These poems are all going to be from a collection called On Water. There are a few at the back available. Some are even unsigned. And I've taken a kind of a liberal view of the idea that this is about water. The theme of this is about water. So the first poem is a poem, I suppose, loosely based around the biblical story of the wedding feast of Cana, when, as you recall, water was turned into wine. Most of us do the reverse miracle later on in the evening, but so if you imagine somebody along the lines of, I don't know if you remember Keeping Up Appearances, Hyacinth Bouquet. Yeah, if you can imagine someone like her attending, anyway, you'll get the picture. So, a wedding guest. We stay just outside Cana, which is actually a very pretty town, although the military seemed to be everywhere. The weather on the day was perfect. I wore my new papyrus shoes, and the bride looked absolutely radiant. Her dress cost a small fortune. They did choose to serve the best wine last, after a slight delay, but the customs they have here are different, as Zach explained. Still, it did seem rather odd, as did that young man, the woman by his side, his mother, I believe, who spoke to the stewards, so quiet and assured, as they fussed over the ewers. The group with him were whispering about a sign. A rough lot they were, but the wine tasted divine. So as I say, I have liberally interpreted the idea of water and the theme of the sea. And this next poem is a poem based on a burger joint in Kinsale. I'm sure many of you know Kinsale. We used to go on holidays there, and the question that used to be asked was, "Are you married or do you live in Kinsale?" But there was this wonderful burger joint, which I think is still there. And myself and my younger sister and my younger sister's friend, who was gorgeous, who I just realized when I was the age I was that she was gorgeous, used to queue up outside this burger joint, which was called the Lusitania. The Lusitania. Hiss of grill would scratch your eyes out. We kept our distance at the counter as we waited for charred glories served by Jonjo, Burger Meister, furnace-faced, and blowing like a stoker from the ship he'd named this shack for, torpedoed in an earlier war. Behind me, stifled giggles. My younger sister, 13, treacherous, her best friend BJ, who'd taken on new cargo, last year the Bunty, this year Bardo, winking back at Jonjo as he handed out the baps. We licked our chops, prepared to eat our hearts out, wounds spurting ketchup onto death in ancient Greece. One lovesick glance, another fleet, sailing for Troy on gusts of onion breath. This next poem also features my sister, and it recalls, but in a slightly kind of darker setting. It recalls our history as a family. To some extent, we spent an awful lot of time sailing together, mutinously and otherwise. And so I suppose it talks about lighthouses, but it talks about other things as well, I hope. Anyway, it's called Easter Island. My mother lit the lamp beside the statue of Our Lady, her knees stiffening in the month of May as she begged us say the rosary each night. And I would nudge my giggling little sister and recite the joyful mysteries we learnt on summer voyages: Bailey, Fastnet, Tusker, Hook, Old Head, as we sailed on leaky boats and not so holy family, waving as we passed to those keepers of the light patrolling the Muret, who always, always would wave back. I grew up. I read in books how many souls those cheery men had saved, and learned as well how hard it was to place my faith in one who claimed to be the light, but who only looked on as crops failed and planes fell from the sky, who would allow the lump within my sister's breast to bloom. We waited for a sign, news from the hospital, my mother on her knees once more, lighting candle after candle, the nave ablaze with flame in a church that now was empty. Once, during the chemo, I saw her lift off her bandana and shuddered at the terror of her head laid bare. I thought of Easter Island, its lonely shore named for the promise of an afterlife by other sailors who'd also lost their way and could not believe the brute heads looming over them as they beached rowboats in the sand, stone deities they could not account for as they wondered what they might find next and were afraid. Closer. He says you can't hear me, which is rare, but anyway. I'll just go back. The sequence On Water includes a sequence called On Water. As I say, they were based on stories from the Bible. Whether you buy into them or not, they're good stories. But this is one. This is the title poem called On Water. And many of you will have been at the beach in charge of a young child, or you've been beside a family who've been in charge of a young child, and suddenly the child goes missing. Oh, where's he gone? What happened? What's happened? And everyone goes into a panic. And so this was, I suppose, trying to imagine what it must have been like when Mary took Jesus to the beach. Anyway, it's called On Water. I'd seen it happen years ago, back when he was just a child, couldn't have been more than 8. I'd warned him, stay close to the shore, don't go deeper than your knees. But even then, he had this way of doing what he thought was right. My back was turned, his baby sister red-cheeked in the heat, and he was gone. I panicked, ran down to the edge, screamed his name in fright until I saw him going out with the tide, walking on water. Little splashes as he skipped from wave to wave, astonished fishes leaping underneath his feet. Arms stretched wide, he smiled back, showing how easily it was done, which it was, compared with what was yet to come. I read a poem called The Wave. This is about the Fastnet yacht racing disaster in 1979. And years later, I was on it, but very young. But years later, I saw the wood carving by Hokusai of the great wave of Kanagawa. I'm sure you all know it, the kind of little boats and the huge wave. And anyway, this, as I say, it took 30 years to write this poem, and I hope it was worth it. Anyway, this is called The Wave. Grizzled mainsail trimmer of a Yankee clipper, the only one to call it. Cloudless August morning, the shoreside calf. Something big out there in the Atlantic. Southern drawl, amid sweet afton, waft of last night's beer, bitching about skippers over eggs and bacon. Tinkling masts, the gleam and spank of sail, yachts prancing in the harbour, courses plotted for the rock. No runic satellite, no merry weatherman could then foretell the mangled spars, the drifting empty hulls, the sodden bodies hauled aboard by trawlers, the others never found, lists taped up in windows near the greasy spoon where that old salt had seen what Hokusai saw beyond the geishas and the fish markets of Edo, his own floating world as he leaned over a woodblock carved from cherry to make this picture of the wave of Kanagawa. Out of nowhere, a rumble in the ocean, foam-flecked surge gathering in the arc of its own rage into a roar of water, brute beauty trembling above the wooden sampans, the cowering men poised, ready to sweep everything away. I'll do three more. Again, the idea of the sea is I'm using it elastically, but many of us, I'm sure, have made the journey from Ireland to England. Some of you may have done it from Cork, or I certainly did it from Dublin, but by train, then across to Wales, and then by train to London. And it's a rite of passage, and it's a wrong of passage as well. And it's a grim experience in some respects. But of course, you're the better for doing it, although you don't think that at the time. Anyway, this is a poem called The Blue Man. And it's about that experience, I hope. I think some of them may have been on the duty free already. Yeah. The Blue Man. Hulk of ferry, scream of gull, the Irish sea behind in darkness, shaking her grey head. Pasty-faced in platform sodium glare, we hefted rucksacks and suitcases, plastic bags of duty-free, the clunk and clink of grog and cig, stashed until engine stammer, whistle shriek, the rolling vowels of Wales and Cork. Train hauling its songs, station after station, like the faith we'd sworn we'd keep to fearful parents who pressed addresses into our small town hands. Cards marked, we played brag for the new money we jingled in our fingers, trying to weigh its sovereign otherness. And here comes England, a man in uniform, politely clipping tickets. His velvet midnight skin, the Irish suddenly made sense of. Miss O'Kelly at the blackboard drumming in the word for Negro on Far Gurrum, the blue man who stands before us, asking if we know where we are going. Okay. Two more. A scrimshaw is one of these little ornaments that sailors, particularly whalers and whaling ships, made out of the tooths and bones of whales, the carved inscriptions and things on them. And so I suppose that's mainly what I spent a lot of my life trying to do, except not on whale bone, obviously, but scrimshaw. Anyway, this is a poem called Scrimshaw, and this is for my wife. Among the twisted innards, shock of crimson, he found this, a pause mid-flens to tuck into the pocket of the leaky oilskin he'd be drowned in later, the little stumpy tusk, 100 in that fearsome head, a tooth for every cask of viscous ooze becoming suds lathering a widow's hand, or oil soaking through wick, the hurricane lamp flickering beside him, nights on deck, on watch, boards sagging under the Leviathan dead, etching, scratching out, as I do now, this story. Clouds and masts, the tiny whaler following through waves, a plume of foam engraved on this keepsake I make that you may keep. When I am all at sea, so far from home, and so much water, as I chase down the latest poem that briefly surfaces off starboard to shouts, quivering blades, before descending once again into the unfathomable, deep, darker than ink, or any marks I might set down tonight, creak of moonlit rigging, the songs of long dead sailors carrying on a wind up from the south, salt gust on these chapped lips that long for yours. Thank you. Can I say thanks once again to everybody? Thank you, all of you, for your patience. Thanks again to Sarah. Thanks to all the other readers. I will never see the word Satan or Saturn again without thinking of dyslexia. It's a word that absolutely, you'll see that again somewhere else. So I know people who write poems about writing poems need to get out a bit more. So this is, I mean, and I say that the connection of this to water is as tenuous as it gets. The poem is called The Ark, but it's really about my late uncle Brian O'Donnell, who ran the High B bar across the road. Yeah. And I have a T-shirt which says I've been barred from the High B. It's a kind of, and I'm sure all of you, it's now a badge of honor now. So some of you will know everybody I meet who, when I say Brian O'Donnell was my uncle, they say, I'll tell you a story about Brian. And I look forward to hearing all your stories. This has some of them. I mean, some of you, I'm sure, will know the story about the Bernie Murphy, the sandwich man, who there was a sandwich board man, I beg your pardon, and they decided, and up in the High B, which, as you know, is on the first floor, which is so cool, that they would have him elected as a councillor, and so on, and so on. Brian. Anyway, so look, this is the last poem, and it's dedicated to the memory of the late, great Brian O'Donnell, and it's called, with a nod to poetry on the sea, The Ark. Past the sign that offers wigs for rent at Minahan's the chemist, who still complains of rivulets of stout dribbling down into his shop, then in under the arch through which a man might ride a horse, and up the stairs, the same stairs Eddie Guest, true story, once stumbled on and fell and sued and lost. A door opening into an interior by Vermeer. Light falling from a window on the left, lambent on the counter. The figures perched on high stools, nursing pints and chasers. The sense that some small thing is just about to happen here, where anything is possible, where merchant princes wait their turn, and Bernie Murphy, sandwich board man, becomes a city councillor. And you, mine host, presiding, gazing out across the bar at new arrivals before you amble over to pour another splash of what you've always loved to call a talent to abuse. A talent nurtured in another time when select bar meant no fools ever suffered, no interruptions tolerated to quiet, courteous drinking. The legends grew. How once, when he refused to remove it, you snipped off with the scissors a patron's garish tie. How tourists seeking merely coffee or a soft drink were briskly shown the door. Word was, nobody was anybody in this town until they'd been barred by you. Though at times, the person you most wanted to get rid of was yourself, your own best customer. Dank afternoons alone, when the smoke-stained wooden panels closed in around you like a coffin, and you sank down to the dregs, down to the ocean floor at the bottom of your glass. Quit drinking, said the doctor. Quit while you're ahead. Who says I'm ahead? The return from the baseline, proving you can always tell a corkman, but you can't tell him much. Someday, the Lee's green waters will rise to swallow up all of these streets, Patrick Street and Winthrop, and this street too, Oliver Plunkett, our favorite bloody martyr. But when the deluge comes, if anything survives, it will be this place, an ark filled with chairs and tables from another turn of century ship, the picture signed by Einstein and the letter from Cole Porter, and 40 days and nights of classical and jazz and opera, enough even for you, a balding Noah in bifocals, still humming Shostakovich and insisting on good manners as the denizens stare out upon the lost world floating past, clinging on to Bernie Murphy's sandwich board. Thank you. Unsigned copies are 10, signed copies are 5.
So John has just informed me that he has books here for sale, and the unsigned copies are €10, and those that are signed are €5. So another big round of applause and massive thank you to John McDonald. And also to Sarah Hymas for a fabulous reading. Alright guys, so we have a 10-minute break. I will go around with the open mic list. I'll pass that around. So if you want to perform now on the open mic, do get your name down on that. And that is open to Zoom as well. So see you guys in 10 minutes at 25.
No,
No, I didn't know. I was in the room.
You must be doing something wrong.
I know. I remember myself.
Really like
Glanmire, secret location. Martinez. 4 or
I remember you saying that.
I only passed there like give him a bottle, like give him a bottle before he went to bed. Like I'm just
like that. It's thinks that's a smile. It's a smile. She doesn't really know. She doesn't really know how. She does smile not on purpose when she's really thinks something is funny.
You know, stylish gentlemen like yourself. Yeah. It's like disturbing, but that's what it's all about, you know? That's all about. Enjoying it, like, oh, okay. I'm gonna grasp it. I'm gonna grasp it. I'm gonna go so quickly.
Like during the in the morning, so it's kind of like it's pretty. There's no such thing.
No. I think it's wrong. Like, it's a good spot, like, yeah. No phones, it's great. I think that fan stood for itself. There's something like that up there.
Yeah, but that's fine.
I don't think so. I'm not really
I love it.
I mean, you've kind of experimented with Arizona over the years.
You said it and I was like, okay. Eventually you're like, yeah,
Where was it again?
Yeah, Lugo.
Oh, yeah.
No, at least yeah. So the north. I don't think I've been
But I thought that whether stop people from going to teachers, you know, they don't just they want to wear it's not like the word church. They'll take you on the streets. Down one level, that's it.
Virgin,
Very much so. Even not John, even very artistic,
And then there's the
That used to be a massive.
The in-person one is in person here next week. So every third Monday we do it here, and there's no audience, so it's restricted to like 10 people because there's boxes. So it's an insurance thing. So they can only be 10 people, and we feedback each other's performances and there's a chance to perform it again. We still do it online. We still see one person and that's still very much appreciated by people as well. We have like people coming in. I mean, we don't always have everybody joining all the time. The last time that we had 2 English people and it is always, sometimes in the summer months it's fine because it gives you the time to actually feedback each person without any support. And interesting enough, in person, we had 8 people online with no time pressure. Exactly. And that was beautiful here as well. So it runs really nicely and it's a different angle. So the in-person is about performance and presentation, how it is online, with voice, all these, a lot of this stuff from singing. So it's kind of that level. So it's been really inspiring to see.
Do I have anybody else for the open mic? Any lurkers? I'll just check the spoken area. And we're going to kick off in just a couple minutes. I'm just going to round up the escapees.
Oh yeah.
How did the rally go? It was disappointing. Like just over a thousand there. There was rain there, sent in on time. I know. I couldn't get over it sent in on time. I could not get over it. I'm not surprised. I was not surprised because I see the chemtrails doing it. Yeah, and a couple of hours later it starts powering up and then it's that feeling that we know. Yes, yes, we went up the blue skies last night. Yes, this is not the weather. It happened slowly in the morning, people are still slow and the early birds falling out. I'm surprised that my nose and my all sinuses, all the chest is going all the time. And just that with any rally, any march coming in, any rally, that you can guarantee if the weather is supposed to be nice and it is nice, you will see chemtrails in the morning and it will shower and it will be raining the day. They always do always. And that's the curve. We're off and so and it's okay for me. Yeah, because activists will always go. Yes, but other people, because they too wet. And understand some like
Alrighty guys, hello and welcome back. So a massive thank you again to everyone who performed the 5-word challenge and our guest performers. What a high caliber poetry we've seen already this evening. And now for the open mic. Now all the parts of the evening are always my favourite bits. I do love the open mics. We really get to see the community and what has been brewing. And there's a couple of new poems out there that I'm particularly looking forward to. So we're going to kick off with Rosie O'Regan.
Don't get too excited, I don't have a poem. I just want to plug my brothers and sisters in theatre, my Birds of a Feather friends. In Broken Crow, we have 2 shows of the Midsummer Festival, one called The Settling, which will premiere next Sunday night on the 18th, and the second show is called Found. Settling will be in the Granary, and Found will premiere on the 21st, on Wednesday, in Graffiti Theatre. If you can come out and support us, that would be great. The 2 shows are completely different. They're both very entertaining and thought-provoking and all that stuff. So give it up for the Broken Crow.
So next up we have Margaret O'Regan.
Thank you. This poem is one that was written for me, and the reason I'm reading it tonight is because of the appalling housing and homelessness situation. And it's called Utopia, the Last Resort from Margaret O'Regan, was written by Anton Floyd. So, with a shadow at the door, like some dark-suited angel, a miracle is the last resort. For only something like that can prevent another exodus. There's no promised land to go to, no new paradise, no first world community offering status and salvation, no grand plan, no roadmap, just a restless wandering. Nothing but to be homeless, aimless, and adrift in these apocalyptic times of broken promises. And thanks to Anton Floyd for that.
And next up, guys, we have Mark O'Leary.
This one's about one of the eternal topics in poetry, a breakup. It's called Love. She fries hash browns from frozen. I slide my arms round her waist. My palms rest on her belly, her bum my crotch, her back my chest, her hair, coconut. She says, I love it when you do that. I didn't often. Time is not the wiper, it is the windscreen collecting flies. I never said it. Was I afraid the word would stick in my throat and I'd choke, or that I could only offer a shred of shattered glass in the side, and if I took it out, I'd be left with a bloody lap? All I know is that my mouth was full of dumb fear, and now I am trapped here with the third person pronoun. The tragedy of this poem is that it is a poem, not a post-it note hid under a coffee pot on a Tuesday morning. What if I'd woken early once in her bed and traced the topographical map of her ribcage, rising and falling? Could I open the door and step out, be led uphill and still higher to where it bubbled from the black earth, drink it straight from source, not have to dismantle, twig by twig, the dam? I could wash clean as fantasy and roll over into the warm crease of her body instead of sitting here, crying alone in the car. But I have no map, and wisdom comes too easy on the tops of mountains or while writing poems. I want to be wise in kitchens when the blender is too loud. So while my mother presses clementines and fresh baked bread into a brown paper bag, I mutter it. I whisper it to my own constipated gut. I've started to smile at the thought that someone is telling her as simply as keys are dropped in a bowl. Thank you.
And next up, guys, we have Catherine Ronan.
This poem is going to be published in Long Island Sounds Anthology, New York. New York, baby! It's called Ignition. With one final push, I burst the rusty lock. Dandelions exhale, motorcycle oil veins, my new, never again, teenage boots. You, a man born before time, recognizes wild, ebbed, attic-worn soul in me. Just before the dark spell of stroke, you hand over the warm, precious key, before we lie half asleep in 6 years of bedsores and sheepskin. But sleep is the giant waiting to be slain by a feather. I climb on board your iron horse. Hot pokers dance in your garden of tiny secrets. Flaking red gates growl with delight. The child in your eyes relights, waiting for ignition.
Mighty, thank you so much, Catherine. And now we are going on to Zoom for Spango.
Very good evening to everyone. I hope you can hear me clearly. Yes. Okay, great. So as you said, my name is Pongo. I'm happy to be here, even though I was a bit late today. I have a poem that I'm still working on that I would love to share with you. It's untitled yet. It goes something like this. Can the mind exist without a brain? Perhaps the brain and the body are a creation of the mind. Perhaps when all thoughts reach a fusion, life is from one mind, a creation of the mind. Where you are a version of me doing things differently, and I am the version of you that you hide secretly. Some say, if I focused on the positive, I'd awaken the best in me. So when I meditate, I visualize how it's shaping my destiny. My blessings are a testament. My blessings are testing me. My questions are sessions with this one mind and introspection into the infinite. Individualism is the self-fragmenting into the ego and fencing it to contain a different perspective, neural networks buzzing and active, reticular activating system selective, the amygdala always on and protected. So we feel that we are disconnected. Peace, power to you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Spango. Always good to see you on the mic. Next up, we have David McLaughlin.
Thanks. So there's a poet who was a teacher of mine called Kimiko Han, who's Japanese American, and so she liked forms like the haibun, which are a mixture of haiku and kind of like so you'd have a haiku and then prose. So, and the prose would usually be travel. But this is just like an adaptation of the haibun. And so in going with the Japanese sort of theme, it's called Shinrin Yoku, which is Japanese, the translation is forest bathing. So it's kind of like a mental health poem, forest bathing, after Kimiko Han. Serious and young in retro hiking gear, they bathe their brains in forests of Izo spruce in southern Hokkaido, or go on pilgrimage in the Key Mountains. I'm on a bench in Ballincollig Regional Park, not exactly a forest. There are trees conversing. There are yellow stalks, dry like me, convalescing without words like neurasthenia or nurses in winged helmets. And now here's the prose bit. In the 90s, Justin's sister checked herself into John of Gods. John of Gods with John of Gods. was the murmur. The shame hush. She said it was a relief, though, being there. That was the year I murmured, "Sit till you feel better," and sat so long I did. Sorry, that wasn't intentional. And sat so long I did, looking at turns and night waiters. Further out, the city lights resolved to amber, a mile out at low tide. Among my parents' Churchtown, Dunleary, Clonskee pals, Dublin's posh south side, there was a hushed horror around mental ill health. Still, an adult child or two is a recluse like the Hickey-Mori, literally pulling inward, confined. One 40-year-old gets up when his father goes to bed, but allows mum to see him. As a boy, there were symptoms to carry, like a decanter. That way, they didn't have to admit to mistakes, but spiritual wine can't come that way. Even 50-year-olds try not to give news about failure. For instance, I haven't really told my parents, "Dad, I'm burnt out. Adrian is supporting me," through these months of recouper vegging. Dad would see this as not quite making it, kind of decidedly un-alpha. Mum would have gushed sympathetically and shamed me. She's dead now, the mother tree. We live in each other's shadow, but don't know it, a root system. I remember the stunned face of the man in his late 20s, my same age, in the house opposite, living with clinical depression and his parents. In the rankings in my head, somehow I was better or different in my PhD swampland just off the Stillorgan dual carriageway. My parents paid the rent. The rings under my eyes almost hurt like bark. I used to feel sorry for those sons, but now there's almost no distance between us. Thank you.
And next up, guys, we have Adrienne Brock.
I also have a tree poem. I got in a bit of trouble with this poem because the man who just read is my husband, and when he read this, he said, "Oh, that's such a wonderful love poem that you wrote for me." And it's not for him, and it's not a love poem. It's about the phenomenon of trees growing together, interlocation or something. And the word comes from Latin. It means to kiss. So this is more about nature. Sorry, Dave. It's called Twin Trees in Philadelphia. And Philadelphia, you'll know, is the city of brotherly love. So. Our fingers cannot trace a line through the street where you are going. Unknown and unknowable, grown up around us, this city is the site of personal embarrassment. Half viewed as though in the dark out a window, a story someone told that sang through the filaments of tram lines above. We could hear movement before it came. Oh, Muse, sing again of the 1,000 flowing trolleys carrying loves and plans that might have been, bent over their sewing, our fabrics pressed together along a seam that becomes a cerement for antinomic longings. We wish both to commune and to accept solitude, albeit with weariment. How tantalizing, the thought of your roots and mine together, growing. I stand with your water at my knees, your fruit just out of reach. Brother, own me, split my bark and grow into me. Make your bed beneath my skin and on all sides of me. Open my body and trace the circles of years that came before. Drink what water remains in me. Take me into your mouth if you cannot feed me. Let each breath submerge itself first in you, then in me. Let us not remember what was said, only that there are no levies against what our many loves contain. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to have Constantine, and then we're going to go to Zoom. So Darren, you'll be up after Constantine.
The first poem is Hidden Stories. Hidden stories wandering through the meanings, like Orpheus leaving home, sweet and bitter, everything moves around on the wings of a dove, hourglass time, the seconds fall like a revelation. Love. It was a weekend, I remember, in the Statue of Liberty Park. We talked about love, about life. We also talked about the weather and many other things. On the River Lee, beautiful days of September, on the River Lee, the caravan of birds, the fish is looking for the bank with deep breath. The sun has left his place, somewhere is warmer camp. When the moon rises, a shadow on the silent lips of rose. Sweet words. I am dreaming in sweet words. A phoenix is reborn. Doves rise in the sky. A message. A dove sat on my shoulder. There is so always something to do. The poet, the humble step of the passerby with the poems in a backpack crossing distances. I wrote few words, water, air, earth, fire, etc., etc. Like a soldier on the battlefield, every day I am closer to myself. On every street corner, I meet myself. I can still remember deep inside when I was waiting on the water edge for a new chapter to begin. Maybe it's the last. Among all this, on a grain of wheat, I painted the heavens. On a grain of maize, I painted the sun. On a grain of rice, I painted moon and stars above the waters. On a grain of mustard seed, I painted humanity among all this. Translated by Eileen Curie.
So, Darren, if you're ready there on Zoom, you are up next.
That's great, thank you. I've never read Ovale in person, so looks like a good vibe. I will just begin my poem, and there's a vague theme of water that might help you through it, so we'll go with that. Lifting a lead weight from a stony ground, not a heavy object, except in comparison to a stone. Mistook for another man's wife. You know her inside out, but you never met. And that was a choice too, although I don't know if you can have a choice fall like that. The way a fish sees it, crash in and whisper water to part, ask it to be like school, or at least look to find out what a feather is. Disrupted, the rod stirs him, fingers around the can, his lips murmur on teeth as he whines and sucks out neon-flecked nothing, a broken bottle, other people's Heineken. When he threw his, they were cans. I bought him cans, as many plus one more, and sat with him to learn why, if he told me. The calm of other people returned, set back in, carried on around, us drinking our 4%, circled out as trouble. It's evening, and I'm wearing shorts and a printed t-shirt whose irony isn't its wording, but an all-over pattern of men and dogs and aliens, a tableau made art in the summer when I was still a child. Its creator better known for his slight but active physique of a man who loved men. when that had its new dangers, bare-chested with a marker pen, spreading imagery on city rubbish, discarded doors and fridges, and knowingly under the ground. His nod to some subculture, not yet named so, licensed to mass outlets decades after his death, when CFCs and homosexual acts are less cause for concern as lessons in human progress and human progress, a hole which has all but closed in. We laugh, and for each we share, we sip, and there are silences and then breaks into fluid exchange. No one is cheated. We talk about them all, men, aliens, and biting dogs, peers from the age of condemnation and sin. Then gesturing to my shirt, he tells me how I don't get to choose, but if I did, what would it be? That next day, the weight, too heavy to be carried off by gossipy chatter or aught like that, seemed not to be there, and no longer was it looked for to plug a gap. And perhaps it was good as gone, handed back to him, full as a bath, markings of a day's filth, only to describe what happened when a man chose to forget he wasn't a boy anymore. Thanks very much for listening to my poem, and yeah, I guess that's my third time for this one.
Darren, well read. That was fantastic. Next up, guys, we are back in the room. Like as a feather stiff as a board. We have JJF, Jason J. Fisher.
This is called Wax Wings, but I got some other stuff sprinkled on top, and we'll see how it goes. The loss of acuity from processing new thoughts to speaking them fluidly is not new to me. Not new to me at all. From framing my picture on your wall to not knowing you at all. You were a wake-up call, but in some ways, I think I didn't wake up at all. And most of the lists with a title like this just end up closed inside a tight fist. And most of the lists with a title like this just end up closed inside of tight fists. And kill the past. Cull it from your skull. For your past can become more and more and more and more colorful. And these days, I can only be boisterous. Because these days, I'm using my voice when I used to feel voiceless. And these days, I'm making a choice when I used to feel choiceless. And these days, I'm still reeling from feeling the full weight of the world. For Atlas shrugged me the globe as he did Heracles, saying, "Here, you hoist this." And respect to those whose words are measured and exacting, bedecked in fine garments, the treasured trappings of true rap kings. And here I thought it was better to spend my days crafting than flapping my wax wings. But the sun's rays proved to be forever too taxing. And far below I could see the sea spray, splashing, crashing. And just when tight reins to grasp were what I needed most, on my right passed a chariot being driven by Helios. And it goes like this, a pseudo-Icarus. And yes, the rush was fun as my fingertips brushed the sun, yet I was almost undone by the subsequent plunge. And I'm just a sun-stroked dumb bloke with but one hope. When I'm gone, they'll never say anything I wrote was rote or one note. And Fisher can wax poetic, painting pictures which seem far too vast for those that don't get it. But Fisher can also wane poetic, knowing the supposed pain from strictures were structural until you became prophetic. So let's go get it. My Instagram is words by JJF. Thank you very much.
May we never forget it. All right, so Cedric is up next, guys.
I'm a bit nervous about that one because I kind of scribbled it off out of conversation I had in the past weeks. So, and stuff that I've been trying to put down on paper for the past years. So they just as a synopsis, I'm trying to write about this character who's a soul collector, and his name is Keith, and he's very much new to that job. but he's skillful. However, the job is very much about magic, if you will. This was unusual. Every soul that Keith had ever collected were merely lost. Their bodies functioning and alive at ease. A few words would act as a spell to dispel the turmoils. Despite his tall stature and his cloak as dark as his skin, most people would feel calm in his presence. Today was different. Today, the black man was color in a world increasingly gray. Life in drifting dullness, somewhat out of his reach. Keith grabbed the edge of his coat in a reflex to shield the myriad of lives shattered inside of it. If he, the collector, did not feel safe, he could not afford to let them be exposed. The summer sun at noon should have inundated the streets with light and heat. However, to him, the perdition of this soul had cast an eclipse shadow to the world. Fearing for his own safety and that of the unsuspecting yet affected population around, the collector huddled towards the closest carriage porch to gather his thoughts. The world had gone from vivid to sepia. The door turquoise when he first saw it was now teal. The yellow and red flags of the nearby festival now occur in Bordeaux. Keith understood. A little light had been twisted and in turn cast his sadness, imperceptible to the darkness of loneliness. He thought, souls are souls until they find one another. He remembered how he made his wives and closed his eyes. And all became clear again. He could see it. A requiem made a torch song, a call and a send-off nearby. A heart-ringing melody made into a symbol of pure love. Drought, sand, thunder. Anger, grief, death, love. With his recovered swiftness and clarity, the black collector moved through the crowd as unseen as he normally would. With a song for guide, he finally reached the area where a lone blind woman with a stringed instrument confirmed his vision and hearing. No sand in my eyes, no thunder in my ears, no covering of the skies, no rain can wash you away, my dear. Keith removed his coat and covered her with it.
Okay, so we are going to have Sue Blue, and then we're going to follow Sue on Zoom with Massimo. So Massimo will be after Sue.
Right, I have one here that is so tiny that I'll have a second one. The second one will be sea themed, and the first one is just simply called Tea Again. I offer you a cup of tea again. I put the kettle on again. Sit down while waiting and forget again. You ask for your tea again and get up to finish making it yourself again. We don't say a word. This one here is brand new. I wrote it tonight. It's gonna be an experiment, and we'll see if I can do it. It's called Zoom Effect. When the words get dragged and drawn out, slowing like a taut elastic near peak tension, until the tech lets go and words rattle out like a machine gun squished together in a froggy voice, then slows again to slugs, slime trails, like the ebbing and flooding of the sea.
Alright, guys, and now we have Massimo Lavelle. I can give a big round of applause to Massimo, please.
It's an honor to be here. Can everyone hear me okay? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, not always a pretty and a sweet love. Sometimes a dark and a deep love, with even nightmares and sweet dreams of the hope that in the dark I still see love. Who you truly are, may you be love. You taught me to be loved, I must be love. I have hated, but it's not hate I speak of. So thank you for letting me speak love. But I'm blind, close the blinds on the window. Cloak my eyes with a veil like a widow. I have broken almost every vow, and I did so, mostly because I only loved myself from the get-go. I fell down and made a big mess though, but I hope it all happened because it's meant so. I'm glad the world doesn't turn because I said so. That way I know it still turns when I let go. Because this head and these hands are too human to perfectly handle this world without bruising. Dirt on my hands, but it's dirt I have roots in. But out of my hands, look, the world is still blooming. Now, how can I save the world without moving? Or must I turn till the turns turn to grooving? But who besides this fool I am I fooling? It's all grace. I don't always know what I'm doing. So I think hard on this. What if all were perfect as it already is? It may sound easy to say, hard to live, but this truth is all that I want, all I give. Because the truth is no fun when it's simplistic, with nothing that's broken and no one to fix it. A shawl with no flaws, I unstitch it. If where there is perfection, I can't be artistic. So as a craft, I seek holes in the fabric and shine light through the hole just to patch it. In sunlight, expose ghosts in the attic as a child of a great light whose shadows can't match it. Everything I needed, yes, I had it. My life was perfect before anything was added. Just to even have this attitude is magic. So day by day, I make this gratitude a habit. Because I'm grateful for the soft and the sweet love, but also grateful for the dark and the deep love. I have suffered, but it's not pain I speak of. So thank you for letting me speak love. Peace.
Thank you.
Massimo, legendary. Always love to see your name on the open mic list. That was fabulous. Thank you. Next up, we have Saoirse O'Glasson.
So I wrote this poem when I was compiling my first book, this one, and I think it's appropriate for this evening too. It's called Words and Rhymes. My mind, filled with lines of endless words and rhymes, trying to declutter so I can re-utter the golden threads of thoughts sublime. Thinking of the greats, W.B. Yeats, A.E. Russell and Blake, no one can forsake the words these men remake. Retold through the resilient and strong, strength of soul, heart and wrongs, frantically forgiving all facets of being, becoming free to be authentically me. Thank you.
Thank you, Saoirse. We're coming to just past the halfway point here in the open mic. Next up, we have Jack O'Glasson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jack O'Glasson. Baby girl, you did great. Thank you. This poem is from the perspective of Amergin, who was a chief druid, poet, and magician of the Milesians. He casted a spell on Ireland, and she let him in. So it goes something like this. It's called Beyond Her Ninth Wave. Somewhere beyond the ninth wave, into that and into this, an eternal enclave of my perfect place in death and rest. Somehow mythical, but much more true than truth. Swimming over, swirling under. Somewhere beyond a wave of nine, her pressing pressure of pleasure anchored in this heart of mine. Swimming beyond, diving through, searching beyond her truth so true. I found her teeming treasures inside that nurturing nest, created in the center of her chest, blooming an alchemical rose between her beautiful breasts. Purple painted petals, with gems in rows on rows and rows of gold, gold, white gold, folds and folds on folds of rose gold, with a shivering, shimmering silver so brightly bold. In an emerald valley, deeply surrounded by fortified walls of white curvy cliffs, the womanly mountainous mothers, intoxicating perky perched feminine tips, infused by her moonlit lips, imbued in a moonlit kiss. Cloaked in a pearly pale pink moonlit mist of a transmuting transfixed elixir eclipse. A primrose within a rose in a wave of mauve that swirls and whirls that curls in and throughout her curly furrows. A rose, a deep rose, her rose, a wave of rose, a sea deep in rose, a sea green deep in rose, a sea green of rose. A love that flowers and a love that flowers and flows, a heart that glows and grows, a heart that reaps what it sows, a heart that strengthens the love, that strengthens the warrior's bow. Swimming beyond the wave of mauve, somewhere beyond her ninth wave. I found her by the lyrical lake, in a crystal city where she found my soul to save. Somewhere above, elsewhere below, in our crystal cave, our souls safe and saved. Somewhere close, close yet beyond her ninth wondrous wave. Thank you.
Jack and Saoirse, thank you guys both for reading. That was great. Next up, we have another favourite of mine. We have Fergus Costello.
Listen, thank you, Cava. In honour of the night that's in it, I have temporarily renamed this piece, and it's now called As Long As You Don't Harbour It. Thoughts are neutral, they're like the tide. They come in and they go back out again. There's high tide, there's low tide, but there's no such thing as a bad tide, and there's no such thing as bad thoughts. Growing up, I was taught there was such a thing as bad thoughts. And in fairness now, it was shocking handy when going to confession and you could think of nothing better to say. Bless me, Father, for I had shocking bad thoughts. Three Hail Marys and a Glory Be makes penitent, please. But there is no such thing as bad thoughts. It all depends on what you're doing with them. If you were to have the thought, let's say, of getting up at your ex-girlfriend's up-and-coming wedding and telling everybody that you thought that she was a seriously sick, horrendously unhinged, monumental lighting bitch. There'd be nothing wrong with that thought. As long as you didn't harbour it. If you saw that thought bobbing up and down out in the ocean, don't go out there and attempt to tow that back to the shore and tie it up at your personal pier. Don't rope that thought to your private pontoon. Don't drag that thought up the slipway into the dry dock and start to scrape it, scratch it, scrub it, rub it, sand it, paint it, varnish it, and then meticulously carve onto the side of its bow the words, "Die, harlot, die." Followed by your ex-girlfriend's soon-to-be married name. That would be an insane thing to do. If you saw that thought walking past your house one day and you decided to run out through the door with your arms wide open, shouting, "Come in, come in, come in, pull up a chair, sit down, make yourself at home. I'll put on the kettle, I'll make you a cup of tea. Then I'll make up the bed for you in the spare room. Better still, why not sleep in my bed? Crawl up my back, burrow into the back of my head, take up residence there, have noisy parties all day and all night long because, quite frankly, I have nothing better to do but to entertain you." That would be another insane thing to do. In fact, if you walked into your kitchen one morning and you saw that thought sitting down at your kitchen table eating a bowl of your cornflakes, please, I'm begging you, don't go rushing to the fridge to try and find strawberries and cream to put in those cornflakes. Don't feed that thought. You'd be better off telling that thought to get up off the chair and to bugger off. Or, better still, sit down with it, engage it in conversation, talk to it, quiz it, question it, interrogate it if needs be, Guantanamo Bay style. Waterboard the living fuck out of it. Then make friends with it, embrace it, transform it. And you'll find that your cornflakes will last longer because it won't be eating them up and it won't be eating you up either. So, just to recap, thoughts are neutral. They're like the tide. They come in, they go back out again. There's high tide, there's low tide. But there's no such thing as a bad tide. And there's no such thing as bad thoughts. It all depends on what you do with them.
Rock solid advice from Fergus there, but it means I'm going to have to rename my boat. Next up, lads, we have Seamus Harrington.
Thanks, Cathal. If I thought I was next. The last event of the Ocean to City, tonight one of the first events was the Ocean to City race. So it's time for a short prayer. Help us, O Lord, to go straight to where we're not looking. Lead us not into temptation of looking where we're rowing. Amen. there's a short poem here. There's it, to put it in context, there's a bit of prose, but I'll cut to the end of it. When an early morning trip was planned on an ebb tide, a breastrope and anchor were sometimes used as an auxiliary mooring line. At times, an outgoing tide would take you by surprise, such as moving a boat back in stages to keep her afloat. The distance uncovered seemed to change more rapidly around halfway down the strand. For ages, I thought the slope of the shore was the cause of that. It was not until I was on a navigation course many years later that I learned the real reason. I thought it strange that such a nugget of information should not be widely shared, so I put pen to paper to address this. And for an island nation, I could never understand why this was not on the syllabus. Time and tide. In 6 hours 20, all has changed, that coastlines altered, rearranged. The distance covered every hour appears to change by lunar power. This covert style is just so cool, our seas obey the 1/12th rule. The fall and rise, our ebb and flow, proceed alike, both quick and slow. The first hour past a tidal turn, it flows 1/12th we've come to learn. Along its way, direction one, sea urchins sigh in unison. The second hour, this rate will double, sea urchins play where castles wobble. The third hour then is 3 times first, a fourth one gives the same quick burst. Then 5 as 2 and 6 as 1, high time to turn its journey done. Resluicing shores from poles to tropics, with springs and neaps by monthly topics. Perhaps some rhyme may swell our depth of knowledge so we're safely kept. Harmonic charts and daily tables, didactic clearly, they're not fables. Some local knowledge may deliver solutions to that saline river. With deep fin keel or boardless cat, you need to know just what you're at. At mid-tide ebb, survey or draft, yes, even on a shallow raft, or else you wait and sigh where nature's left you high and dry.
So we're going to go to Zoom next. We have Hilary Quinn. Please and thank you.
This is a haiku and it's called Trump, nice and short. So he tweeted again, arrest for my eyes and brain, he got deleted.
My daughter.
So next up, guys, we have Philip Spallant. Philip, will you please come up to the
Thank you. I got 2 shanties. They're very short. Is that okay? Yeah, I got 2 very, very short shanties. If I'm out of tune, just be honest and come up to me afterwards. Curse myself now. When I get a feeling, when I get a calling, when I get a taste in my mouth and I know it. Through fire and water she is dancing in parallel, and I know it, and you know it too. We are embers in the waves, we are embers in the waves, we are embers in the waves. She's a fire, watching the ocean waves. She's a candle flame, watching your approaching storm, and I know it, that we are castaways, going our own way. Embers in the waves, embers in the waves, embers in the waves, embers in the waves. Thank you. And one where I was walking to Lichterstown on my own when this came to me. Oh, I feel a strangeness in this night, at the stroke before the midnight. I feel the energy from the street lights. I hear the echoes before the bells strike. I don't know where I got this song, but I sing it like I knew it all along. I got no friend, no shadows, no ghost, but the sun on this strange night. Oh, I feel a strangeness in this night, at the stroke before the midnight. I feel the energy from the street lights. I hear the echoes before the bells strike. I don't know where I got this song, but I sing it like I knew it all along. I got no friend, no shadow, no ghost, but the sun on this strange night. Thanks for listening.
Who else would come down to Harbour Festival to brace of original sea shanties with the fabulous mind of Philip Spillane? And next up we have Alexandra. Alexandra, will you please come so much?
My biggest dream always it was to travel back in time and to meet people from the past and to listen to their stories. So in my imagination, I traveled back in time to 1935. I think Al Capone was still around. I sat at the bar stool and I listened to one woman's story. The title is In Love with a Gangster. The sound of his footsteps in the hallway, the shadow of his hat on the wall, the way he's moving towards me. That's the greatest magnet of a man of all I've ever seen. I don't know what he does for a living. His days and nights are secret to me. I never dared to ask him from the beginning, because there's really something I don't want to see. When you're in love with a gangster, when it's too late to change your heart's mind, when he's around, thousand springtimes explode in the day. My heart says to follow, but my mind says, run away. This love has no tomorrow. And I know what comes is pain. But I know I'm in love with a gangster. The clock strikes late in the night hour. The smoke rings of silence in the air. The room full of scent. The vase full of flowers. But the tension drives me crazy. So I say, where do you go now? How to walk away when your heart is burning. He looks at me and the plan is turning. Should I give this love a chance when I know that what we are dancing now might be the very last dance? When you're in love with a gangster, when it's too late to change your heart's mind. Does the heart have a master? How long do I want to stay blind? When he's around, 1,000 springtimes explode in the day. My heart says to follow, but the mind says run away. This love has no tomorrow, and I know what comes is pain, because I know I'm in love with a gangster.
Amazing. Thank you so much again, Alexandra. And so many really powerful first timers here tonight. It's beautiful to see some really strong new voices on the mic. So next up, we are going to go to Kyle English. Kyle, can you please make way to the stage?
Hiya, I'm still Kyle. I'm usually like a singer, songwriter, actor, so without like a costume or ukulele, I feel a little bit naked. My eyes are up here. Yeah, I was looking through the different sort of poems I have. Basically, if it doesn't stick to 4 chords, it ends up as a poem. And I was like, well, that's too short. I won't get my kick of attention that I desperately need. So a little bit of a longer one. Swearing? Okay. Yeah. Oh, good. Thank fuck. The fact that you're ticklish pisses me off, because I would spend eternity dragging my fingers soft across your body if you let me, tracing my way across your stomach in a tactile heaven forever. Whether that meant again and again until I knew every inch of you, or slowed to an indiscernible pace. My every muscle aching to move less, calloused fingers barely touching, barely trailing along your marble smooth skin, wanting to make an inch into infinity. To look at you is fireworks, but to hold you is fire. A glow that heals and heats my heart and soul, sets my brain on a slow turn into warm mush. The crease of my thumb threading itself like the eye of a needle across your cotton collarbone. The heel of my hand pressed on the weightless small of your back, feeling your backbone ripple and shift like ancient tectonics that my dormant DNA already knows, and yet which surprises my skin to feel. The featureless inside of my hand, up along the pinky finger's outwards edge, trailing down your ribs like suitcase wheels on steps, feeling the crest and fall of each raised ridge. But these stairs are not static. They are bellows which expand and flutter, stuttering gently as I feel your breath and you feel me feeling. My nails gently drag across your stomach, my lips feeling rough along your soft neck, my cheekbone brushes your jawline, and you giggle. You are infinite and immense in the detail. You interest me to explore you as something gargantuan, insurmountable and unexplainable. I want to know you, every fiber of you. I want to record how you feel in my muscles. You are sculptural to me. But you giggle. Because you are a person. You are all of this sensory glory and yet a person atop all that. And so I simply kiss you, and I giggle too.
Fabulous, Kyle. Well done and well read, and do come back to us as well. So next up, we have on Zoom, Kieran McCartan. How are you doing, Kieran?
Lovely to see. I just wanted to congratulate everybody at Cork Harbour Festival for their work over the last 10 days, and to Mehamara for a fantastic festival. Yeah, I'm just going to read, it's not really so appropriate maybe in terms of the theme. It's called Port Bottle. It's based on an experience I had recently traveling home. I suppose port is a fairly nautical liquor, so maybe you'll squeeze that one in. Anyway, the joy of your exception, the bottle so exceptional that it'll woo the eye of the flight-getting passerby without the want of a show pony. The delight that your experience may be succinctly encapsulated by this well-timed and geo-appropriate gift. A connection between the hand of the rose giver and the finger of the adorned, I could have sworn was absolute. For I walk to the tiles where the man says, "Hola, bon dia," and I can barely remember that I can't afford, the same as all those around me, the honeycomb foam you've put to protect the frosted glass. The thin layer of stuck plastic and adhesive that diffuses the light in such a way to tell you to tell me that what I want to tell you is that I can't afford for this to happen. But my card is accepted with effortless apology. The anywhere between 7 and 15 seconds to configure a boarding pass, to take the produce of one region to the lips of another, to marvel, both of us, at the rounded bottle, protected from the statistical whirlpool of happenstance by this, just, had to, just. The curved edges of export has received a protection that the sons and daughters of anyone I know or am likely to meet can ill afford. May it mean more that you may wash fortified wine from your clothes. May you be told that your port bottle broke because the foam that protected it could not be produced in a sustainable way, or you failed to protect it with the contents of your baggage in a way that you surely could have configured. A jumper not needed in this climate. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Kieran. So next up we have Alexandra. We have another Alexandra out here.
So the first half of this poem is about someone from my past, and then the second half would be about someone in the present. And I'm just going to explain one word because it's in the title of my poem. So the Moirai are three sisters who are Greek goddesses, and he knows, he's nodding along. They were three sisters, they were goddesses of faith and destiny. So their role was to make sure that the mortals here live up to their full destiny. So the poem is called A Blessing of the Moirai. His eyes were like the luminous sky, reminding me of the golden sun. I was lost in those eyes, warm and innocent. His soul was broken but pure. It captivated me. Our love was a blooming rose, but like all roses die eventually, so did our love. Now both of our souls left broken. As the years flew by, the scars faded, but never left. The past was triggered many times, reminiscing about what we had and what we had lost, and imagining what we could have been. I may never feel this way again. You cannot be this lucky twice in one lifetime, but I was wrong. Now I'm looking into the eyes of the silver moon itself, your frosty mountain eyes, cold but warm. They say the eye is the mirror to the soul, while your eyes scream desire. The way you look at me, hold me, touch me. I cannot look away, or else I fear I might wake up to you never being a reality, but only a dream. A lie my mind created, an illusion shaped by longing. Your dark aura howls in the shadows. I should run, hide, and never look back. But there is comfort in your dark embrace, like the moon, yin and yang. There's both light and shadow gleaming from you, glorious in their own ways. Such passion, lust, infatuation. This feels like pure madness, I admit. It even devours me. This one feels different. It's addictive, a living ecstasy. It was written in the stars. The moon was always meant to find me. And truth be told, I've always been more fond of the moon rather than the sun. I forgot what love feels like until I met you.
Massive thanks to Alessandra there, another poet I haven't seen read on the mic before, and I expect we'll see you again for some reason. So we have Antonio up next.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Paul. And thank you to all the wonderful guest poets and also for all the beautiful, great readings that we had so far. So my poem here is a little bit inspired by the Virginia Woolf and the room. I wanted to explore the room as a concept, as dimension. So the title is Room with a View. Over the window, a life. Upon the bed, a body. Through the walls, a voice. Underneath the roof, a journey. The small fumes from the hot teacup. An open book and tireless eyes. A distinct presence in an indomitable silence. The cozy morning wind, the colors of the sunset have become hipster. Happiness must be beaten in high velocity and spit out immediately afterwards. The time of memory cannot be digested. Another window bending like a wave of grass within a sudden autumn thunderstorm. Thank you very much.
We are coming towards the end, guys. We have 4 poets left. Can we please have Mark Lynch? Oh, I'm so sorry. Mona Lynch.
It's a little bit watery, so it might fit the theme. When I wrote this in 2007 about something that happened, I didn't realise it was a historical event that was repeated again in 2017. Graziano Cecchini, a very famous Italian artist who was very angry with the Roman government and the way they were treating the artists. So I called this poem Graziano Cecchini. I have a quotation by Alan Moore first. People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people. I watched the Trevi fountain from my window on the top floor of Hotel Fontana as I breakfasted on fresh pastries and coffee. The fountain deserted now at this early hour, or so I thought. 2 robust rats disturbed the calm, picking at the detritus around the pillars. Suddenly, from the corner, a man in a baseball cap approached and tipped something from a bag into the water. The contents of the bag dyed the water red. Soon the churning waters, watched by Oceanus, became a foaming, dancing, fiery clot. I grabbed my camera, watched and kicked. Graziano was gone. His rage against the arrogance of power assuaged. A frustrated artist had paid his homage to futurism.
And can we please give a big welcome to Patricia Walsh?
This is a poem where you meet somebody, you get on well with them, but when it comes to crunch, the chemistry is nothing. I mean, this is called Chemistry is Nil. That is not funny, declaring the miscreant. The hairy truth that is tunneled to slight. The blue scars of encouragement, mining steps. The beautiful created in a midst of livelihoods. These secondary occupations, marriage dropped. Forlorn red intelligences walk the room. The merry singer stoops to no heights. Sheets in the wind, masking the unguent. The stage occupation washes over slightly. Jackson's busy fingers waiting the prize. The one-person creature left for the dearest, waiting for a perfection caught on camera. The defunct radio spills propaganda, training one to fly on coloured wings. Notified by bloody, soft tickets, quiet. The painting of solid laxity on a given trait. Believed or not, the seminal joke is justified. Fingering into nothing, written on windows. Hated only by the dawn, motored ahead. The sway of stories, the bold revelation assured. Not spoken to, crass uniform. Dogged abuse is given to the barraging masses. Just missing the target on the broken key. Pleading for alternative association. Pregnant mistake. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. We are finishing strong with our last few here. We have Benjamin Burns.
Thank you to Catherine Ronan for suggesting that I perform this again. This marine-themed poem is for Alicia. And hang on till I get the lyrics in case I forget.
We drove to Maisenhead in the bright sunshine, with sat-nav blaring and the windows down. Oh Christ, no! Oh Holy Christ, no! The visitor centre was closed for renovations. We decided to eat lunch in the back of the van. Pickled beetroot and reheated miso soup. Afterwards, we hopped across the fence. Followed the tourist track through the flora. The bridge was closed. And we could not cross the deep and perilous ravine. We sat on a concrete bench and shared a flask of tea and squares of chocolate sucking happily. A little tidal wave that threatened to break the turquoise sea.
Ben. That was highly entertaining. Thank you so much, Ben. Next up, guys, we have Jim Crickard, and this is our final act of the evening. Then after that, we'll be away to Arthur Mains.
Penny just annexed because it assaulted my senses. Fabulous, fabulous. So I've got a new poem which I'm excited to share. It's about conception and like the journey that a sperm goes through to get to the egg. And it's called Odyssey. The factory of life is an engine of semen, deep in dormant prayer that they be spared death from exposure on the arm of a sofa. They pray for launch into the warmth, although most won't go far past the entrance, hypnotized to finally see the beauty of the arched entrance, vaulted ceilings, veined mosaics, like ghosts in a cathedral, absorbing their own auras. At the forefront of the pearlescent surge towards Genesis is a white-hot frenzy of thousands on a slipped stream, halved by the crossroads of the fallopian tubes, culled again by landmines of scattered acid. Select contenders will enter the golden chamber, where the ovule sits luminous in the pit, and oysters purl. Turnstiles of zona pellucida may admit only one, by auto-lock entrance, activated with a glint of light. The ovule sequesters the artist in residence to write symphonies of genetic code, a masterpiece 9 months in the making. They always cry when they leave. I have a small little limerick that my friend wrote, and I sent this. One day, while enjoying the sun, Jim wrote a poem about cum. Why, we don't know. He just went with the flow, or maybe he's back on the room.
All right, you guys, thank you all so much for coming down, and thank you to everybody who joined us on Zoom there as well. Sorry with the microphones kicking up. That was your 685th Ovale. So massive thanks to Alexandra and to everyone in the Long Valley, and to, as usual, the Horse's Head, the wee jars there. And we are going to make our way over to Arthur Mains for a few scoops. So that is a crack. We're heading over to Arthur's, just over that direction. So we shall reconvene downstairs and we'll wiggle our way over. Thanks so much, guys.
That was a weird one, Ben. That was. Yes, it was. Very, very intriguing. I loved it.
That one's going to live rent-free in my